amendment from the House version, which I always thought kind of weird. Why one side, not the other? But that's the way it is. So we're hoping to get more language introduced on the floor of the House. If we can't, then when it goes to conference committee, when the House and Senate gets together and debates the differences and they come to resolution on a single bill, that we'll be able to get Senator Rosen's language to survive, which is enormous for our fight. And what we're starting to cause is, and I'm not trying to be braggadocious or anything else.
No.
Truly, I'm not. But what we're causing is a monumental paradigm shift in the way the DoD does things. Here's what it's going to be. The DoD is hidden. I'm data masked, okay? I officially was never there. There isn't there. We didn't do anything there. We were never exposed, right? All total BS.
Yeah.
So it's going to direct the Secretary of the Air Force to identify every person, member of the military, that has served on NTTR since 1951 through present day.
Yeah.
Confirm that NTTR is contaminated with all sorts of toxins and radiation. Essentially going to make it like a Superfund site, a known area of deadly toxic exposure. And it's going to make our issues presumptive. In other words, I asked, when I was told I had left brain atrophy, I asked the neurologist at the VA, I said, could this be related to radiation? She has no idea about where I work. She has no idea about what I did, anything else. I just asked, you think this could be something, if I was exposed to radiation, that would cause this? And she looks at me and she goes, absolutely, why? Well, I worked at this little place, kind of where they tested bombs. And she goes, that's the cause.
Well, it won't be long. The lawyers will be jumping all over it. You'll see
the what?
The lawyers. You'll see.
Well, see, here's one of our problems. I talked to the lawyers that did Camp Lejeune, right? That's the biggest, lawsuit that's going on. And they said, we've heard of your issue. People have talked to us before, but you can't do anything about it because President Clinton signed an executive order. He signed a law, it's called EOIPA, EEOICPA, in November of 2000, that gave all of the Department of Energy workers who work where we worked benefits for radiation exposure. Gave them lump sum payments if they were sick, anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000. Gave them free lifetime medical for all of their issues related. And you can almost, it's really to the point. And this is NIH says, we can't tell you what that type of exposure causes or doesn't cause. No. We can't even tell you it causes so much stuff.
Well, they're going to have to do more studies on it then, figure it out, I guess.
Or it's the fact is they can't tell us it's not related because the government can't tell us it's not related. And they've been studying this stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
They did studies back in the 90s to figure out if the energy workers was related to us. And I'll tell you why this is important is where I worked, the military did the military required jobs, okay? They were the pilots and the mechanics. They were the firefighters and the cops. They were the things that worked with the assets that we needed to work with. The hangars were built by, the roads were built by, the chow hall was operated by, everything like that was operated by the civilians under Department of Energy contracts. So the guy that cooked my cheeseburger at the chow hall, the government has seen fit to take care of him. Me, the guy that ate the cheeseburger, the government refuses to even acknowledge I exist.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. So, fast forward to that, what Bill Clinton signed is he signed then, after that law was signed, in December of 2000, he signed an executive order that blocked anyone but the Department of Energy folks from filing a claim due to national security. So when I talked to the Camp Lejeune folks, they said that your only path forward was to either get an executive order or to get legislation. I don't have a phone number that I can call that says, hey, buddy, I need an executive order signed by the president.
Yeah.
But I know how to get a hold of congressmen. I know how that process works, and I know what has to be done to get a bill introduced. So that's the path I went because it's the only one I know.
See, they do this a lot with the pharmaceutical companies too, or so like these vaccines and stuff, they get protected if it does any damage to people. And hey, stand by your product, stand by what you do. So there've been, I imagine, how many people would you estimate have been not only affected, but basically erased because it was uh, the nature of the work, classified nature.
So I think living, there's probably 2,500 to 3,000 people that are currently suffering health conditions. The problem is, like, the location I was at was basically shut down for about 16 years. I'm sure there was still people there, but it was functionally shut down as a base. Well, it came back to life. And the other location, our sister base, has been around since 1955. The issue that the government has is these two locations and others, these two being the main locations, are still operational, and there's somebody working there right now. So the folks that are there today, the 18, 20-year-old that's going up today, his future is the same as mine.
Oh boy.
And they don't know it yet. So it's not just the few thousand today that we know of. This isn't going to end. Creech Air Force Base, the worldwide headquarters of everything drone for the Air Force, sits 15 miles from where they used to do all the above ground detonations. I talked to those people. There's people that served out there a while back that are suffering today. So that's going to become an issue because Creech now is a full-on Air Force base. When I was uprange, it was Indian Springs Auxiliary Airfield, and the cop shift that was at Indian Springs then was 3 people. And there was no operational flying or anything going on. It was like, holy crap, we're having a problem. We got to land. We're not making it to Nellis. Yeah, we got this thing called Indian Springs. Go there.
Yeah.
So it was, it's going to become a bigger and bigger problem. They're going to have to deal with it. And that's my goal, is to make them deal with it and provide us, treat us, one, like any other veteran. In other words, I can't service connect my brain atrophy, even though we know it's related to my service.
Yeah.
That we know that at some point in time, it could cause me serious health issues like dementia or Alzheimer's.
God forbid. But yeah.
So I need to service connected, because if that happens, my family's going to need help. My wife's going to need help. And today the government's going to thumb its nose at me and say, too bad, so sad, not our problem. And that's why we're trying to fix this. And there's so many widows. It's the saddest thing ever.
Yeah.
There's so many widows that I talk to whose husband's cancer or whatever ailment they had that they died from, or that they're suffering, like my old flight chief has had Alzheimer's for about 15 years now, I guess, and he's completely dysfunctional. He needs full-time health care. Guys like that, they need to be able to service connect their issues. And when they die, when we die, and we all accept the fact that this is going to be the primary cause for most of us to die, there's something called DIC benefits that a veteran's surviving spouse would get if their issue is service connected. Well, since our issues aren't service connected, they're all left out to dry. And I've talked to people, and this goes from, guys like me that were young enlisted guys, got out as a buck sergeant, to a lady that I'm trying to help right now, whose husband was a full-bird colonel, who was the founder of the Red Eagles.
Jeez.
She can't get help, and she calls me up. She goes, "What am I going to do? I think I'm going to lose my house."
Well,
he died from cancer, from